it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Thursday, September 7th. So today we have the moon in Gemini all day, which of course puts a lot of pressure in our mental plane, definitely opens up our curiosity. We have a lot of questions, we're seeking a lot of answers, and unfortunately for us, we actually may come up with more questions from the answers in which we're seeking. Now, granted, yesterday we had a major event. We had Mercury and the Sun kind of pop off, and this is Mercury's star point. So Mercury has essentially been resurrected, renewed, reborn, so to speak. And of course, Mercury rules over the Gemini energy. So we're definitely going to be feeling a shift, not only in our mental plane, but in our heart space as well. And we had the last quarter moon take place in Gemini, which of course was an intense buildup to seeing the choices, the past, the directions very, very clearly. And of course, we are currently leaning towards one over the other, but we still have a little bit more research to do, a little bit more observing to do as we mark the halfway point of Mercury's retrograde. And so now we are going to be pivoting on really examining where it is that we're going to come up with a plan and a strategy to fix some of the problems, some of the issues that were very much in our faces in this first half. So with the moon in Gemini all day, we will kind of see the moon go void, of course, at 6:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will take us all the way into early Friday morning before the moon will lock into Cancer energy, into its rulership. So just consider the fact that there's been a lot of anxiety, a lot of emotional outbursts, a lot of very complex emotions that have kind of risen to the surface of our awareness since the weekend when, of course, we had Venus go direct and then Jupiter go retrograde, and then all of this anxiety, all of this energy, all of this buildup towards Mercury's star point, Mercury's conjunction with the Sun, the last quarter moon in Gemini. It is all very interconnected, and now that that energy is reaching a peak, we're going to see it kind of dissipate, calm down a little bit, but we're going to slide all the way into the moon in its place of power in this Cancer energy, and you best believe this is going to bring up a lot of feels, really pull us back from the external world in order for us to kind of mull over some of the things that have come to our attention. And of course, in that Cancer energy, we have to kind of build a little bit of a fresher, new foundation for us to launch off of, emotionally speaking. And we will be building towards that new foundation as we start piecing together some of the aha moments, some of the revelations, and some of the emotions that have been asking for our attention. So with 8 different aspects here today and 7 of them involving the moon, we're definitely going to be in for a little bit of an aha moment, an epiphany, if you will, and a true realization where it is that we're changing our perspective, changing our direction, and really getting down in the nitty-gritty on how it is that we're going to resolve some of these issues so that we can move forward. So we're going to kick the day off with the moon in Gemini sextiling. Beautiful interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in Aries energy. I like this because it does suggest that we are kind of seeing some progress. We are seeing some growth. We are really kind of analyzing where healing has taken place and where more healing needs to take place. There is an evolution of realizing where it is that we've been blocking ourselves, where the old self, the old programming, the old, I'm going to say, understanding is definitely falling away in order for us to build something better in its place. And so this is a true indicator that we are not as wounded as we have been over the last couple of days. And from that, we are building ourselves back up again. The moon is going to interact with Pluto, the great transformer himself, who is retrograde in Capricorn energy. This is a very positive interaction, which does suggest that we are kind of unearthing, if you will, old programming, old narratives, old conditioning, especially when we're looking back and identifying where it is that we're feeling blocked, where it is that we're feeling held back and restricted from actually moving forward. Continuously reminding ourselves that Pluto retrograde in this Capricorn energy is giving us a second chance, so to speak, to really collapse some of the foundations, some of the structures, some of the aspects, some of the elements in our lives, especially where the old has a hold on us. So this is a good realization that we are piecing things together. We are seeing the two very dramatic and different narratives, different versions of self, different opportunities that align with each vibration. And because of that, because we can see two things very clearly, we can start kind of aggressing ourselves, if you will, to collapse the one that is not as favorable and strengthen the one that is. The moon is then going to interact with Uranus, the great awakener, who is retrograde in Taurus energy, in a positive way, which should illuminate for us where it is that we are growing, we are strengthening. Now, in this particular aspect, because Uranus is the great awakener, because he's retrograde, showing us where it is in our physical realm, again, fixed earth energy because of the Taurus energy that Uranus is in, where it is that we're holding on to greatly to the way that our physical realms basically have been designed, have been created. We are really recognizing where it is that we're actually the problem by holding on too greatly to the old, because many of us think that we're going to continue to do what it is that we've already done until something new presents itself. But of course, that's not how the universe works. We have to be bold and brave and courageous enough to clear out, to cut out, to detach from the things that we know are holding us back, that we know are not in our truest alignment. We have to create the space for the new to actually arrive. And this is where many people get cluster effed, by really sticking with what it is that they've already created, what is old, tried, tested, and true, until something new shows up that presents an opportunity for growth, for betterment, for abundance. So if you find yourself in this particular, realm of action, please understand that until you create a space for the new to arrive, that you will continue to do what it is that you've already done and continue to get what it is that you've already got. Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, how it is that we express ourselves, retrograde in its place of power in this Virgo energy, again, met its halfway point here yesterday, had its rebirth here yesterday. Mercury is going to be interacting with Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, who is now direct in Leo energy. Granted, she's going to be in the post-retrograde shadow period for a couple of more weeks, but we are starting to piece things together. Now, this particular interaction is going to lighten the vibe a little bit. We're kind of infusing the logical, practical way that our mental plane needs us to approach some serious topics with a more playful energy. We get that playful energy from the Leo energy that Venus is in. We just want to be a little bit more lighthearted. We want to have a little bit more fun. But what could happen out of this particular situation and scenario is we could start running our mouth, start saying things that we don't necessarily feel or we don't necessarily mean. We could definitely put our foot in our mouth, so to speak, considering the fact that Mercury is still retrograde and miscommunication and misunderstandings are a thing, because we are being encouraged to speak from our heart space, really explain and articulate what it is that we've kind of been mulling over and simmering in. There could be just a little bit of, I'm going to say, discombobulation and confusion that we create ourselves by talking a good talk that doesn't necessarily vibrate with how it is that we're actually thinking and feeling. So we want to be a little bit cautious, if you will, that we're not just verbal vomiting for the sake of hearing ourselves talk, and that we're not saying things that we don't necessarily mean or necessarily feel. So be very cautiously aware of that. Now, outside of that particular caution, I would say that this is a good aspect for us to get our heart and our head in alignment, to see where it is that, maybe we do have to lighten the vibe and kind of have a little bit more of a carefree, playful type of approach to some of the serious topics and themes that we've been contemplating, especially where making major changes are concerned. But nonetheless, just be very cautiously aware that what we say isn't necessarily how it is that we're thinking or feeling, and what it is that we are saying may not be well received by those that we're speaking this inaccurate truth to. So just be cautiously aware of what you're contributing to. The moon is then going to sextile the north node in Aries energy. This is a beautiful interaction, and it does suggest that we are starting to piece together what a possible baby step could be, what a possible move could be, what a possible plan could be. We are percolating on it. Again, the moon in Gemini, very curious, wants to explore all avenues, and most of the time those avenues are very extreme, very polarized, against each other. And the whole point here is to kind of dabble in both extremes in order to find a common ground, a comfortable point to actually launch from. So this is going to suggest that we are really kind of, percolating on some alternatives, really kind of exploring in our mental plane and in our emotional field how that would make us feel, what that would actually look like, what that would require of us. Now, that's not to say that we're going to go ahead, take action upon that as of right now or ever, but we do need to kind of move into imaginary land to visualize what it is that we are exploring in our inner realm, that we need to make changes in our outer realm about in order to actually break away from the old and advance towards the new. The moon in Gemini is then going to get into the boxing ring, square off with Neptune, who is retrograde in his place of power in this Pisces energy. Now, this is a square, so this is conflict, this is tension in order to illuminate where a dramatic shift, a dramatic change is needed. But what this is going to do is literally amplify where it is that we just have zero energy for certain things, where we would like to do some things, we would like to really, make some changes or have some new experiences, but we don't have the energy for it right now. We don't even have the spirit for it. We're not inspired, we're not motivated, we're kind of down in the dumps if we're being honest, but the lack of physical energy is really putting us in a situation of, kind of being whiny, kind of complaining, because we're like, how are we supposed to do anything? Got no energy. How are we supposed to do anything when we don't care? How are we supposed to pursue a new path when we really don't give an F about anything at this point? That's okay. Sit in it, explore it, observe it. It's going to be a very short type of window of energy, but an important one to kind of indicate for us where it is that we actually would like to take action and make moves on things, but we're lacking the inspiration, the motivation, and the physical energy to actually do it. That's a good indicator on what it is that we actually want to pursue when we are gifted with the energy, inspiration, and motivation to actually pursue said things. It's at this point in time that the moon is going to go void, of course. And when things go void, they're a little bit shaky, a little bit uncertain, adding to the confusion, adding to, just questioning pretty much everything. Now, while the moon is void in this Gemini energy, we will see the moon interact with Venus. It's a semi-square, so it's a little bit of a tension and a conflict. And this is just illuminating for us where it is that our head and our heart space not on the same page. Where it is that we're really starting to question ourselves, question our thoughts, question our ideas, question our heart space, what it is that we were feeling, who it is that we're having these feelings towards. It's a deconstruction, if you will, on where it is that our heart and our head is not in alignment in order to really unearth what the problem is and where it is that we are feeling that division, and we can attack it and hopefully reconcile it. This is illuminating for us what the actual problem is, where the distance lies, where it is that we're feeling this disconnect, this detachment between our heart and our head. And so we can actively work on bridging that gap. The last aspect that we're going to have here today is the moon, still in this Gemini energy, but very much void, of course, making an interaction with Pluto, the great transformer himself, who was retrograde in this Capricorn energy. Now, this particular interaction is not a great one, but of course the moon is void, so we're not expecting a whole lot of positivity. We're expecting energy and aspects to make us question things. And, anytime Pluto's involved, we know that there's an intensity coming to whatever it is that we're thinking and feeling. There's a little bit of a darkness, if you will, because Pluto is all about showing us the pain in order to illuminate where it is that we actually have the ability to turn that pain into a source of power. We do have to sit in the darkness, if you will, of where it is that, the old has got the hold on us, where it is that the old narratives, the old version of self, the old construct that the old version of self has created is really having a dramatic effect on us, where it is that we're a little bit fearful of leaving some of those aspects behind, even though we know damn well that we've outgrown them, that they're no longer serving us. Now, the moon interacting with Pluto in this way is going to illuminate where it is that there is a change, a transformation needed in our headspace, in our heart space, before we're going to be able to really kind of complete the thought, complete the vision, complete the visual on what it is that we need to actually see take place in our realm. So granted, we are still very much void, and we're going, many of us, moving into that nighttime energy where the moon is void. And in this Gemini energy, that always brings a lot more electricity to the thing. There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of anticipation, there's a lot of restlessness. But what we know is going to happen here is that we are going to be illuminated to the darker narratives, the darker emotions, the darker memories, the darker thoughts. And we have to explore that heaviness, that weight, in order to illuminate where it is that we can flip the script into something a little bit more positive, encouraging, and powerful.